Okay, you are no doubt wondering about the sunglasses. I have no doubt that they are stunning to look at and make me like 13% more handsome, but it's mostly about the fact that I scratched the heck out of my eye and nobody needs to see that. So, moving on. Let's talk about the Seattle Mariners roster. And I'm going to do more of a projection of what I would do more so than a projection of or prediction of what I think they'll end up doing. I think it's going to end up being pretty close. I might be off by like one or two here. This can be my Joey brackets moment. We'll see how close I am. By the way, NCAA tournament, love you, love you, love you, love you. But yeah, let's talk about some baseball. Someday I'll get to do a podcast about the NCAA tournament, but it won't be today. I'm carrying three catchers, and I think you can kind of call it 2.5 catchers because one of those guys is going to get a chance, I think, to play in the outfield. But I got Cal Raleigh, Tom Murphy, and Cooper Hummel on my roster. Those three. I think Cooper Hummel is actually pretty important for what they want to do. So, and we'll get into that when I get into what my lineups would be against left-handed and right-handed pitching. But Cooper Hummel, I think the way he's played this spring training and the fact that they love him so much is kind of a lock to make the roster now. But he'd be on mine as well. It's a trade that I think will have to go back and look at some point because I sure hope Kyle Lewis kills it. But right now, Cooper Hummel is a more important player for the Seattle Mariners. At first base, I've got Ty France. At second base, I have Colton Wong and Dylan Moore. At shortstop, I have J.P. Crawford. At third base, I have two guys technically. One of them really is not a third baseman, but listing him as a designated hitter would just hurt my heart. So we're going to call Eugenio Suarez, obviously, a third baseman and a good one. Tommy La Stella, I'll list at third base because, again, I just can't call him the designated hitter, even though I think he's going to get a lot of reps there. We can get into that a little bit later, but I don't feel like yelling today. Outfield, Jared Kelnick, Julio Rodriguez, Teoscar Hernandez, Sam Haggerty, who I think is going to play some infield as well, maybe this year. Be interesting to see. And then AJ Pollock, of course. So those are my hitters. For the rotation, it's pretty obvious, but we'll go over it anyway because it's the funnest thing to talk about with the team. Starting pitcher, I have Luis Castillo, Robbie Ray, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, and Marco Gonzalez. As for the order that I would put these guys in, I don't think it really matters, but I'd probably go Castillo, Ray, Kirby, Gilbert, Gonzalez. I don't buy anything into the you have to have two left-handers in a row type of thing, or you can't have that, yada, yada, yada. Just put your best pitchers out there. And those are the guys I want making the most starts, with all due respect to Marco, who is clearly the fifth starter in this group. And I think, Chris Flexen has made a case to be a guy to put in that spot as well. But I think that Marco's going to be the guy. And I kind of like Flexen better in the bullpen than I like Gonzalez. For my relief pitchers, I've got 7. And I think this is going to be the big difference is I think that the Mariners might carry 8. But I'm only carrying 7, and I don't think they really need to carry that 8th reliever. The Mariners probably disagree. But obviously, I have Paul Sewald, Andres Munoz, Diego Castilla, Matt Brash, Matt Festa, Penn Murphy, and Chris Flexen. I think that they may go with a left-hander like Taylor Saucedo, or they could go with the Rule 5 pick, Chris Clark, who I think is probably going to end up being waived if he doesn't make the roster. Obviously, they could also go with Trevor Gott, who it'd actually be kind of weird if he doesn't make this roster since they gave him a not sizable salary. But, you typically, if you sign somebody for above that 7 figures, they're going to make the roster. You wouldn't make my roster. I think it's more important to have more of those guys hitting than somebody who is going to provide low leverage innings that you can get away with. And the nice thing about all of these, or most of these guys in the bullpen, is I feel kind of comfortable using him in a multi-inning role. I will say this. I was tempted to say, and again, he had no chance to really make the major league roster, but I did consider for a moment putting Prelander Baroa in this bullpen just because I think that stuff is sick. But the reason why he's not on my bullpen, and it's the same reason why he's not going to make the Mariners in real life, for lack of a better term. No, it's a pretty good term, actually, is that they want to develop him as a starter, and I don't blame him. He has a chance to be a very, very solid starting option if he throws enough strikes. Do I have my doubts that that's where he's going to end up? A little bit. I think he could be dominant in the bullpen. Dominant. Like Matt Brash-esque type of numbers because of the fact that he has such disgusting stuff. I don't know if he's ever going to command it well enough. We'll go over next week. I will go over my top 15 Seattle Mariner prospects. And I literally just made that number up as I was going. We'll figure 15 will be a good number. Everybody does top 10. We're going to go top 15, baby. All right, so that's my team. How am I lining them up? Okay, I'm going to do against right-handers, and I'm going to go against left-handers. Okay, against righties, and I'll go over it after I go through for each one. I got Colton Wong leading off and playing second base, of course. Julio Rodriguez in center field. Teoscar Hernandez in right field. Got Cal Raleigh hitting fourth. Let me start that over again because I just want to make an emphasis on where people are batting. Leadoff, Colton Wong, second base. Second, Julio Rodriguez, center field. Teoscar Hernandez batting third and playing right field. Cal Raleigh hitting cleanup and obviously behind the plate. Eugenio Suarez at third base hitting fifth. Ty France at first base hitting sixth. AJ Pollock at designated hitter hitting seventh. Jared Kelenic in left field hitting eighth. And JP Crawford ninth playing shortstop. I think that the things that may surprise people, I don't know what surprises anybody anymore these days, is having Raleigh hitting over Suarez. I'm a big believer in Cal Raleigh, and I kind of like having Suarez get a chance to, the cleanup spot, you talk about, you want your traditional guy of hitting with three guys on, if like ultimately would be the goal or something along those lines, or being like a leadoff type hitter if the three guys don't get on, a guy with power who can get on base. I can see Raleigh being that type of guy. I think he has as much power as anyone on this roster. I think that he's going to be a much better hitter for average going forward. I am all in on Cal Raleigh. And I was a big fan of him coming into 2021. And, he didn't look great by any stretch of the imagination. And we talked about this in the positional preview. He didn't look great for the start of 2022 either. But, man, after he got called up, he was really, really, really good. And I'm a big believer in that bat. Suarez is a fine cleanup hitter as well. I just kind of prefer Raleigh in that spot and then having Suarez in that fifth spot with a chance, to still drive in a bunch of runs if and when Raleigh doesn't get the job done, and assuming that those three guys are getting on base at a good clip. I have Julio at 2, and I think that's kind of what they want too. If he wants to bat leadoff, fine. That's fine. You got to keep Julio happy. I just think he's better in that second spot, especially having somebody who can get on base at a strong clip against right-handed pitching the way Wong has for the majority of his career. I think Julio Rodriguez is better in that role. Ultimately, my best player is going to be hitting second for me, and Julio Rodriguez is my best player, and I want him hitting second. France down at 6. This could be controversial, such a stupid way to put this, but, a guy who hit second for so long, I'm moving him down. I trust those other 5 guys more as offensive weapons, and, I think also he can be a little bit of a stabilizer of the bottom of the lineup because I'm not super confident in any of these guys. You could argue Kelenic belongs in the 7th spot. You could argue Kelenic belongs in the 6th spot. How he has looked that good in spring training. But I want to put a little less pressure on him, and I'm going to hit him 8th. And you'll see also I'm going to put a little less pressure on him against left-handers in just a second. Crawford, obviously, in the 9th spot, the worst hitter on the team, in my personal opinion. You're putting in that 9 spot. And, the fact that he can get on base is a nice little thing for your second leadoff hitter, which everybody loves to talk about. But it's more about the fact that I just don't want JP Crawford getting as many at-bats as these other guys. You could argue Pollock. And I think we're going to rotate through here, but I think he's the guy I probably trust the most as a designated hitter against right-handed pitching. It may be La Stella if he's healthy enough to do so. It's not a good situation. I really hope they make another trade for somebody that they can put in that spot or at least lengthen the lineup a little bit. It's not a bad lineup, but it's not a lineup that's competing for championships yet, in my personal opinion. Okay, against lefties. Julio Rodriguez leading off and playing center field. AJ Pollock hitting designated hitter and batting second. Teoscar Hernandez in right field hitting third. Eugenio Suarez at cleanup playing third base. Cal Raleigh, catcher, hitting fifth. Ty France, first base, hitting sixth. Tom Murphy, designated hitter, hitting seventh. Dylan Moore, second base, hitting eighth. And JP Crawford, shortstop, batting ninth. So I'm kind of contradicting myself a little bit. I just think Julio loves that leadoff spot. And I think against left-handers, it makes a little bit more sense just because I don't see a great option otherwise. You could argue maybe Dylan Moore would be a good spot for that leadoff spot because he has a really good approach at the plate and he can run. And by the way, I do think so. We talk a lot about like how baseball has changed and the leadoff spot is no longer the swift guy necessarily. It's about the guy who can actually get on base, which is a super smart thing. But as stolen bases, I think, are going to become more important, I think it's not a bad idea to have somebody like a speedy person like Julio Rodriguez or Colton Wong batting, because if they can get on base and steal you a bag, that's great. And, you know, you have somebody in scoring position for the bottom or for the middle of your order. That's a huge benefit. There's no doubt about that. So no, it's not something where you should have guys who can't get on just because and hit leadoff just because they're fast. That's stupid. But if they can run and they can get on base, then that leadoff spot makes an awful lot of sense because getting themselves into scoring position without the help of any type of bunt or anything along those lines is a huge benefit. So yeah, I do like Julio in that leadoff spot. I just want to hit him second against right-handers because I think there's somebody who can get on and run a little bit in Colton Wong, and then Julio just makes a ton of sense in that leadoff spot. Pollock has crushed left-handed pitching for his entire career. I see no reason why he shouldn't be able to do so. Obviously, you have Moore at second base for Wong, who just cannot hit left-handed pitching. There's too much evidence of it. Maybe he's going to get some playing time there, but I would imagine Moore is going to get more. Pun absolutely intended. Always intend to do puns. And then Murphy at DH. I think he's the best option against left-handed pitching. And I think that's the reason why Cooper Hummel has to be on this roster. Because if you have two catchers in the lineup, you got to have that third. And the fact that Cooper Hummel can be a not abhorrent outfielder defensively is a big benefit. Like, he's not great by any stretch of the imagination there, but he's athletic enough to handle it. It's also a guy, I guess, who's going to get some reps at first base as well, and that makes some sense. You know, I imagine if there was a long-term injury, knock on wood, it doesn't happen to Ty France or someone along that line, it would probably be Evan White's job. But it's nice to know that he can be a guy who can handle that position. Yeah, I think that's what I'm rolling with. And I imagine the big difference is from the lineup. I don't know. The lineup difference, I think, is going to be that I think Cal Raleigh is going to hit fifth with Eugenio Suarez hitting cleanup in both lineups. And I get it. I totally get it. A lot of power there. I believe in Cal Raleigh as an complete offensive player a little bit more. And that's more compliment to Raleigh than it is insult to Suarez. Keep that in mind. And I could see Ty France hitting a little higher in the lineup as well. And yeah, Kelenic is going to get a chance to play some against left-handed pitching, but I want to limit that at the start of the season. I think the confidence for Jarred Kelenic is very important, and getting off to a hot start against right-handed pitching, hitting at the bottom of the lineup, no pressure there. I just think that's really, really important. You know, you're going to see guys rotate through the DH spot. Again, I have very, very little confidence that that's going to work out unless we get the 2021 version of AJ Pollock. Like, everything I saw from him suggests that's not going to happen. But if it does, that's a huge benefit because he's better at DH. He's not a good defender anymore. And, you know, it lengthens the lineup substantially. Or if Kelenic can be that guy. If Kelenic can be that guy that you can move up in the lineup, that's awesome. And the starting rotation is super set, with the exception, I guess, of maybe Chris Flexen has outpitched Gonzalez this spring. It's winter. I'm looking outside and it's like 33 degrees. I'm not calling anything spring. It's technically not spring anyway, but I think that you've got that set. Some of that has contractual stuff. I would feel relatively like on a scale of 1 to 10, probably a 6 in trading Chris Flexen if someone offered a substantial return. And I imagine that somebody could offer a substantial return. I'm looking at you, New York Yankees, who are just dealing with so many injuries. I think that would make an awful lot of sense. But he's certainly not somebody you just deal for the sake of dealing. He's got a perfectly fine contract. Everybody has a perfectly fine contract. There's billionaires owning this team. But, if they feel like they can do better and he doesn't really fit the bullpen scheme because you feel confident that these guys are going to go deep and somebody offers a quality prospect return, I feel relatively confident trading him. Behind him, I'm a little that the only reason I'm not 100% confident is because the guys behind him are probably rookies. He probably got to wait a little bit. So I think he probably sticks around. But if somebody offered a massive return, great. And you can go sign. There are still arms available that would make sense as like a potential 6 starter, or you can go send Matt Brash down and hope that he can develop into a starter if this was a long-term thing. A short-term thing, you're obviously not doing that with Brash. But yeah, that's how I would line them up. And this is how I would do the roster. I imagine there's going to be a few different things, but I'm curious what you would do. You like that point, especially with these beautiful sunglasses? What would you do with the Seattle Mariner lineup? Would you carry 13 pitchers? Would you carry an extra infielder? Would you, I don't know, do something wacky? Tell me the wackiest thing that you would do with this lineup, because wacky is fun and it sells, baby. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm very curious to see what you guys would do. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Please tell your friends, all that stuff. A reminder that we are going to recap every single Seattle Mariner baseball game on this channel. I'm so excited to do it. And another reminder that on opening day, we're going to do a live chat, and I will be here watching the game like this, and you guys will talk to me about it, and you'll see me shake my head like this when I see things I don't like, and shake my head like this when I see things I do like. This is a visual medium, so that actually makes sense. But yeah, tell me what you think. Seattle Mariners, that's the projected lineup. How far off am I?